Is our reality a simulated dream? The idea that we're living in a simulation sounds like something straight out of The Matrix, but believe it or not, this is a serious debate happening right now among top physicists and philosophers. It's an idea that completely blurs the line between science fiction and the fundamental nature of our existence. 1. The digital ghost. So what is the simulation hypothesis? At its core, it's the idea that everything we think of as real is actually an artificial reality. We might not be biological beings in the way we assume. Instead, we could be conscious programs running inside a massive simulation created by a far more advanced civilization. This isn't even a new idea. Not really. Think way back to the ancient Greek philosopher Plato. His allegory of the cave described prisoners who spent their whole lives watching shadows on a wall, thinking that was reality, completely unaware of the true world causing the shadows. Centuries later, the philosopher René Descartes wondered if an evil demon could be tricking his senses, feeding him a perfect illusion of a world that didn't exist. Today's simulation hypothesis is just the high-tech digital version of that same old nagging doubt. It asks us to seriously consider that our universe wasn't born from a big bang, but maybe it was just booted up. This raises a mind-bending question. Are we the ones in charge, or are we just part of the program? 2. The architect's trilemma. This whole idea really blew up and went from fringe theory to academic headline thanks to a philosopher at Oxford University named Nick Bostrom. In 2003, he published a paper that didn't say we are in a simulation. Instead, it laid out a killer piece of logic called the simulation argument, or Bostrom's trilemma. The argument is that one of the following 3 things has to be true. 1. Any civilization at our level of technology will almost certainly wipe itself out before it can create super advanced, high-fidelity simulations of its ancestors. This is the depressing option. We go extinct from war, climate change, or some other disaster before we ever get smart enough to build these simulated worlds. 2. Any civilization that does get that advanced will have absolutely no interest in running simulations of its past. Maybe they'd think it's unethical, or maybe just boring. They'd have godlike computing power and would use it for other things we can't even imagine. 3. We are almost certainly living in a computer simulation. So why the third point? Well, it just comes down to a numbers game. If civilizations do survive and do decide to run these simulations, they wouldn't just run 1 or 2. They'd run thousands, millions, maybe billions. That means for every one base reality, there would be a colossal number of simulated realities. If a simulated consciousness feels just as real as a biological one, then any random conscious mind, like yours, is statistically far more likely to be one of the simulated billions than one of the original real few. Bostrom's argument is a real corner to be backed into. It forces us to think that either humanity's future is very short or very strange, or our present isn't what it appears to be. 3. Clues in the code. Alright, so if we are inside a program, would there be any evidence? Some scientists think the clues are woven right into the fabric of physics. One of the big ones is just how mathematical our universe is. Why can everything from gravity to the speed of light be described with these clean, elegant equations? It's almost like the universe is running on a kind of code. Physicist John Wheeler famously summed this up with the phrase, "it from bit," the idea that everything physical ultimately comes from information. It gets even weirder when you zoom way into the quantum world. At the tiniest scales, reality stops acting solid and starts behaving more like a video game that only renders what the player is looking at. Particles can exist in multiple states at once until someone observes them, a puzzle that's baffled scientists for a century. Could this just be a way for the simulation to save processing power? On top of that, physicists have found that things like space and energy seem to be quantized. They exist in tiny, indivisible units, kind of like pixels on a screen. More recently, physicist Melvin Vopson proposed a controversial new law he calls the second law of infodynamics. While the famous second law of thermodynamics says that disorder, entropy in a system always increases, Vopson noticed that in many systems, the information entropy seems to decrease or stay the same. He suggests this looks a lot like data compression and optimization, exactly what you'd expect to find if the universe were a giant, efficient simulation trying to save on resources. 4. The unprovable truth. Okay, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. For every cool argument for the simulation, there's a pretty strong one against it. The biggest hurdle is that the hypothesis is probably unfalsifiable. How can you test a theory if the test itself might be part of the simulation? A truly perfect simulation would, by definition, be impossible to distinguish from a real world. It's like trying to check if you're dreaming from inside the dream. Can you really trust the science that led you to the hypothesis if you believe that science is just part of the fake world? It's a paradox. To believe in the simulation, you have to trust the rules of a world you believe is an illusion. And of course, there's the sheer mind-boggling computational power required. Could you even build a computer that could simulate our entire universe? In 2017, physicists Zohar Ringel and Dmitry Kovrizhin showed that just to model the quantum properties of a few hundred electrons would require a computer made of more atoms than exist in the entire observable universe. More recently, astrophysicist Franco Vazza calculated the energy needed and came to a similar conclusion. It would cost more energy to simulate our universe than exists in our universe. The only way around this, he argues, is if the simulators exist in a totally different universe with different laws of physics. A possibility so alien it's basically irrelevant to science. 5. The Dreamer's Dilemma. Let's just pause and ask the biggest question of all. So what? Does any of this actually matter? If we woke up tomorrow and there was definitive proof that we're in a simulation, what would really change? The shock could be massive, sparking everything from a sense of cosmic wonder to crushing anxiety and nihilism. Would life lose its meaning? Some would say yes. If our choices are just pre-written code, then our struggles are just drama for some unseen audience. Love, loss, victory, it could all suddenly feel hollow. But there's another way to look at it. The philosopher David Chalmers argues that a simulated reality is still a real reality. The pain you feel is real. The joy you experience is real. The people you love are real to you. Happiness and suffering don't just disappear because their foundation is digital instead of biological. From that angle, our responsibility to be good to each other doesn't change one bit. The simulation hypothesis is a rabbit hole that goes incredibly deep, touching on physics, philosophy, and what it even means to be conscious. So where does that leave us? Floating in a cosmic computer or standing on solid ground? The truth is, nobody knows for sure. There's no error message flashing across the sky, no definitive proof either way. The simulation hypothesis is one of the most powerful thought experiments of our time. A modern myth that reflects our own anxieties about technology and our oldest questions about existence. But maybe the ultimate nature of our reality, whether it's base or simulated, doesn't really change how we should live. The sun on your skin still feels warm. The challenges you face are still yours to overcome. The people you connect with are still precious. Perhaps the point isn't to figure out if we're in a dream, but to decide what to do with the time we have. Right here, right now. After all, even a simulated life can be a beautiful one, and that is a reality worth living in.